This here the over under at the MGM is 89 minutes. So let's see if we can beat the house. Okay, as you know, this is trying to get my tablet to work here. All of a sudden it just died on me. Oh, there we go. I don't know why it did that. Okay, folks, we have agenda before you for this work session for the 26th of August, 2024. As this is a work session, we'll be taking any formal votes. If there's anything that folks would like to see added on or rearranged, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, hearing no takers, let us proceed. First up is, pardon me. Any stated conflicts of interest for this agenda? Again, speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, let us move on. First up in our presentations tonight, the University of Maryland shuttle. And I believe this is going to be made by the University of Maryland Department of Transportation Services. The floor is yours.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council Abu. We have Armand from the University of Maryland here who can help shed some light on this new route that's going to go through the Riverdale Park Station area. I think we have a map. Yes, we have a map here. I'll try to share that as well. Armand,
Good evening, everyone.
would you mind sharing a little bit more about the route and how it came about and anything else that might be of interest to us?
Sure. Good evening, everyone. Some of you have had the pleasure of meeting on Zoom before, but my name is Armand Scala. I'm the Senior Associate Director of Transportation Services at the University of Maryland. And amongst other things, I oversee the Shuttle UM transit system. So as Ryan mentioned, and some of you might already be aware, we did some changes to our routes over the summer. And so starting last week, one of our most popular bus routes, which is the 104 bus that goes between our College Park campus and the College Park Metro Station, has been modified so that on weekdays, it also continues through the Discovery District, where the university has a number of buildings, and now actually continues on to Riverdale Park Station, which is something we're very excited about. I can tell you historically, one of the most frequent requests we get, especially from students who live on campus, is access to grocery stores and shopping. So they all have access to downtown College Park. We know that they frequent that, but that doesn't necessarily have all the things they're looking for. And a grocery store is the number one. So prior to this semester, we do have service into Hyattsville for the Safeway down there, and during the week to the same Safeway. But it's a little bit of a haul. The bus to Hyattsville doesn't come that frequently. And so starting last week, and with today being the first day of classes, starting in earnest now, every 15 minutes on the weekdays, our bus from main campus goes down to the College Park Metro Station and continues through the Discovery District to Riverdale Park Station. And just last week, our marketing team had the ability to put together the first of their plan to share this with the community. It was a quick reel on Instagram that I thought was very well done and has gotten a lot of response back on all of the advantages for students. And they started off by saying it's catch the bus down there. You can take a morning run through Riverdale Park Station. You can go do your grocery shopping or get a bite to eat, which I thought was particularly intriguing because I don't know what restaurant they got it from, but there's a great melted grilled cheese sandwich that they slowly rip apart in a very dramatic fashion on this video. And I'm now destined to find that grilled cheese sandwich no matter where it is. And then talk about going through evening runs and all the, just trying to start building up excitement for this. Typically, when we modify routes to new locations, we see it takes a little bit of time to really build up ridership and get excitement. 2 months ago or even a month ago, no one in the public was really preparing for this because they didn't know this was coming. And so no one has made their plans for this route. But now that people see it, we're hoping they will start using it, getting excited. Today was the first day of classes. So today was the first day the route ran in earnest. Last week, we started running a few days, but it was still move-in, dorms weren't occupied. And so it's still a little too early to talk about usage or ridership. And as much as I'm going to be watching it closely, because I'm personally very excited about this route, my experience tells me we probably should be a little more patient and get at least a couple months of ridership under our belt to see what the real regular usage is. For us, we see a couple trends. Ridership tends to be a little higher the first 2 weeks of classes every semester. Not exactly sure why it falls off through the semester, but I'll let everyone speculate on that as kids might learn their professors' attendance policies. And then we also see habits change with the weather. So a lot of folks might be walking now or not really relying on transit, but when the weather starts getting bad or starts getting colder, we tend to see some behavior changes. So only explaining that because I don't have really great ridership data to share with anyone yet. It's still way too early. But again, this is this is definitely the second busiest route in our system. And we do about 1 million boardings a year now. We used to do a little bit more pre-COVID. I think some things have changed since then, but of our 1 million+ riders a year, this route is the second highest in our system. So we'll see trends change a little bit on that, but something we're going to be watching very closely and we're excited about. And before I ramble on too much, I did notice there was a question. How much about public awareness? It's just starting up. So one of the things we deal with on campus right now is we have a lot of students who are new and everyone's bombarding them with information. So these are 18 and 19-year-old kids who have come to campus and they're getting transportation information and public safety information, athletics information and clubs and all this stuff. So we're slowly, our marketing team is slowly starting to put things out there, but we're also being a little cautious not to just beat the kids too much. So not a lot yet. Again, the only thing I've seen get released so far is that intro marketing video, which is I think maybe a 16-second reel or something like that on Instagram. And maybe I should have paid a little bit more attention other than being captivated by that grilled cheese sandwich that's driving me crazy. But I'm sure there will be more coming in the coming weeks as this rolls out.
Okay. Great. Any other questions? Does the council have any questions for Mr. Scala? Okay. Mr. Scala, I take it into the second part of Mr. Dorsey's question. In terms of route markings, where the stops are, there's your standard UMD shuttle square. That's marking what the route is.
There is an established bus stop that is at 46th Street, I believe it is. It's kind of by the Gold's Gym entrance back there. And I don't want to call anyone out, but I know, Ivy, you were one of the folks we talked with about this. And, this is, nothing's chiseled in stone with this. So as we start getting feedback, as we start getting responses from passengers and residents, et cetera, the stop location, the routing, all of that remains flexible. And we can continue to work with folks off that. Originally, we didn't think we'd be able to get that spot by the Gold's Gym in 46th. We thought that was a pretty big ask, but you guys were very supportive. And so we're excited about that new stop. And I just want to stress that, it's a bus route. We do have flexibility to change these things if things pop up that we weren't planning on.
Okay. And I take it this route is, well, I shouldn't assume, but the times you have listed here and the stops you have listed here are your main stops, similar to like what Metro does with their bus routes. I take it in between those points, there are stops in between.
So all our bus stops are listed on this. So I believe there's 26, 27 stops.
These are the total number of bus stops there are.
That is all of them.
Okay.
Again, that is something we have a little bit more flexibility than Metro when it comes to being able to modify our routes. We work very closely with them. And sometimes I think they're a little envious of the lack of process that we have to go through to change compared to what they have to go through. Sometimes it can take Metro a year to make bus route changes when they come through. So that's 100% of our stops listed there. There's only one bus stop in Riverdale Park Station west of the railroad tracks, but in the future, we can add or remove as needed.
Okay.
Mr. Vice-
Any other questions from the council? Councilmember Inyang.
Yes. First off, I appreciate the presentation and the flexibility. I know when when you approached the town about the idea, it wasn't a lot of days to sort of make things happen. So I want to thank town staff for sort of working behind the scenes of finding locations and making sure that the traffic patterns and turning radius and all that stuff worked. I my house is right along the route, and so this morning stepped out for the first day of kindergarten picture, and the bus rolled by packed with people right at right around 9 o'clock. So surprising me, because I know they were doing test routes on the weekends, and so I think there's going to be some demand there, and so it's good to hear that the connection to the community, to the grocery store, to the places. Probably Burton's is maybe the grilled cheese location that you're talking about. But that's fantastic to sort of see. And I think I know there was Jim made a comment about the sign saying it's a temporary stop. I know the town has done work to sort of paint some of the curbs to be bright yellow so people don't park there. And so hopefully over time, people recognize that they can't park there. I know there's been some tickets that have been given as well to sort of discourage parking. So could you speak to the idea of it being a temporary sign? Was that just a technicality because of the flexibility you mentioned, or is there some type of provincial period where the stop in front of Gold's is being evaluated?
From our perspective, if it's a temporary sign, that means our marketing folks hadn't gotten a chance to put our normal flag out there. Our bus stops have standardized flags that meet WMATA's sign standard. So
Okay.
if that's still marked with temporary, that's simply because our folks haven't had a chance to get out there and replace it with our permanent one. So that is something we will certainly look into this week. There have been a number of route changes elsewhere in our system, and it has our marketing folks with their head spinning a little bit. So when I go to Burton's later this week for lunch, now that I wrote that down, I'll go in and make sure that is replaced with one of our permanent reflective bus stop flags.
Appreciate it.
Any other council questions?
Yes, hello.
Councilmember Inyang or Councilmember Kalom.
Yeah, this is my own concern. What security measures have they placed in case of the safety of the students?
I'm sorry, I unfortunately didn't catch that entire question.
I said, what security measures have you put in place for the safety of the students?
Sure, you're referring to them on board the buses?
Yeah.
Sure. So our buses follow the same practice of all our buses have video monitoring on it. It's not live monitored, but the buses do have security cameras throughout them. And then, thankfully our system has not had a lot of safety issues. I've been with the university for 16 years now, and our bus system is relatively safe. If we do have concerns, the University Police Department has jurisdiction on board our buses and has historically treated them as if they are campus. So if we do start running into issues or have any security concerns, usually the University Police Department is very quick to respond and help us out, and not only respond to incidents, but we would follow their lead on any recommendations they have for security measures on board the buses.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from council? Okay, we have something in the group chant. Okay, sign at 46 from Jim Schmitz here. The sign at 46 says temporary stop. Okay. Any questions from the public for Mr. Scala? Okay. Hearing none. Pardon?
Mr. Chair, if I can ask a question.
Oh, sorry, sir.
Armand, you've talked about your outreach to the student population. Am I correct that the buses are open to all riders? It's not just for students, but it's open to the public as well.
That is correct. Our entire system isn't. We do have some routes that require university ID, but this route is absolutely open to anyone to use. And piggybacking off the previous question I had, should we find there are disruptive riders, should we find riders posing a security concern, the University Police does have the right to get involved, and I don't want to speak on their behalf. But in my 16 years, 1 or 2 times, they have banned usage of the bus to people that they found had malicious intent for using them, not trying to get around. But other than that, yes, everyone is welcome to board and use the buses. And they are fare free. There is no fare to pay.
And that was going to be my follow-up, just so our residents understand that the buses are available to them at no cost.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that, because I talked about the benefit to the university, but the benefit here is that these buses also go from Riverdale Park Station, and on their way back to campus, go to the metro station. So if you had residents there who were looking for a free bus to get back to the metro station and catch metro, they're more than welcome to use it. The buses come through approximately every 15 minutes all day long.
Wow.
Thank you, Armand.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you won't need a bigger bus.
Yeah, I'm going to need to meet with Ivy if that's the case, because we're maxing out your roadways to get through there.
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Scala, any other questions from staff?
None from me, sir.
Okay. All right. Mr. Scala, thank you very much for coming out this evening and telling us about this service the university is providing.
Thank you all. And my wife probably thanks you too, because this took a lot less time than I thought. So I don't think I get out of bath night. The boys are upstairs screaming right now, so I'm going to go ahead and wash them down. So thank you all and have a great night.
All right. Take care. Good night. Okay. Next up on the agenda, we have, tap back here. We have an update on the Walk, Bike, Drive Safety Initiative.
Yes, so good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the council and the community. Staff just wanted to take a few minutes to update the council in several strategic areas as it relates to Walk, Bike, Drive. It's a top priority of the town to improve safety for how all of us move about the community. So we're going to have different staff members walk through various areas, and then we'll be happy to take whatever questions the council or the community may have. So with that, Director Barnes.
Good evening, Councilman Linguo, members of the council and our community. Just a couple quick updates to start with the engagement and outreach component. We have created a special email address just for walk, bike, drive related concerns. It's safety@riverdaleparkmd.gov. We have some graphics that we'll be rolling out and have been rolling out. In fact, residents have already started using it. This is just a way to streamline those concerns and make sure that they get addressed as quickly as possible. The email address is monitored by OAS staff, and we send it to the different departments depending on the type of concern. So I'm pleased to report it's already working. So we've gotten our first question, or at least concern. Some of these things involve our stakeholders sometimes, so that takes us a little bit, but everybody gets a prompt response back. The Walk, Bike, Drive Advisory Committee held its first meeting on August the 7th. The committee selected Melissa Anderson to serve as the chair, and the committee will be meeting again in September. At the meeting, Mayor Thompson gave an overview of the key aspects of the resolution that created the committee, and the committee is working to finalize their annual meeting calendar. We have pretty well through to, I think, June of 2025, but we're just working on meeting monthly now as needed. Chief Turner.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I wanted to give an update on the residential enforcement. Since, as most of you know, on July 1st, the town switched from school zone enforcement for the automated speed camera to residential enforcement on all roadways except for River Tech Court, which remain school zone enforcement. There was a little delay on the starting up on East West Highway. We had to wait on some improvement from State Highway for moving some signage. But as you can see, from August 1st through August the 15th, there was eastbound, there was 869 citations issued, with 380 of those during school hours and 489 during residential enforcement. Westbound, there were 1,229 citations. 652 of those were during school enforcement hours and 577 during residential enforcement. On Good Luck Road, there were a total of 490 citations issued for the month of July, with 264 of those during school zone enforcement and 226 during residential enforcement. On Riverdale Road, there were a total of 264 citations. 176 of those were during school hours, and 80 of those were during residential enforcement. For Taylor Road, there were a total of 22 citations, with 12 during school hours enforcement and 10 during residential enforcement. We unfortunately expect with school back in session and traffic being a little heavier that some of these numbers may go up. But we're hoping that we can modify drivers' behavior and get these numbers down. If there's any questions, I can take those.
Thank you, Chief Turner. I had one quick question regarding when you look at these numbers. Did you find the outside of hours surprisingly high, low, or about what you expected?
I expected it to be actually a little bit higher on non-school hours, and
Okay.
I think that traffic was a little lighter through the summer months, and that may go up.
Okay. Any other questions from council?
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Inyang.
Chief, every number here, a person actually received like a summons, like a citation. Was there like a warning period where people were getting warnings, or every number here, a person was, above what's like, I think 12 miles per hour or more than the listed speed?
Correct. So each of these numbers resulted in a citation, and each vehicle was going 12 or more miles an hour over the posted speed limit. And there was no warning period for switching to residential enforcement. We just added signage. It was not required by state law.
Well, Chief, if I may, we added signage, and we had I would describe it as a very rigorous public information campaign. Is that correct, Ms. Barnes?
Yes, that is correct.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I know in the walk, bike, drive safety meeting, some statistics in terms of like examples of just how fast people were driving, I think was also listed. I don't know if you have those numbers handy, but it might be helpful to, this isn't like just getting people going 12 over, which I would say is still really fast, but some people going 60 in a 20 or even faster in some instances. So to put some perspective behind what may be lost with just another number on a screen like this.
Sure. I do know on East West Highway, we had a vehicle traveling in excess of 100 miles an hour. And on Riverdale Road, I believe somewhere in the high 50s, close to 60 miles an hour. I don't have the exact numbers for each roadway, but they were the two highest. And I believe there were some in upper 60s on Good Luck Road as well. So it's a little, sets you back a little bit when you see it.
Exactly. Thank you.
Sure.
Thank you, Councilmember Inyang. Any other questions from council for Chief Turner? Okay, hearing none. Is that the conclusion of the?
There's a comment in the
Okay.
public comment.
Trying to pull that up.
I can read it. It basically says,
There we go.
What is needed to change the Rivertech court cameras to residential zoning?
That was actually a question that came up on the walk and talk that we had the other week through that area. Being that it's not a residential zone, so to speak, we probably need, and Chief, correct me if I'm wrong, we'd probably need to get legislation through Annapolis to allow that to happen. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Or build a house.
Yeah, I think Chief, what you were saying, we had one house turn the other way, it's a residential zone.
I don't recall saying it that way, but I know
Or-
you have to have some residential frontage on the roadway.
Yes, we had frontage, sorry. Yes, that was what you said. We had residential frontage. It could be considered a residential zone.
Yes, sir.
So apologies for the misquote.
And
And any other questions? Council or Mr. Listician?
yes, Mr. Chair, if I can just add a comment as it relates to River Tech Court. We are anticipating a request to increase the speed limit on River Tech Court. We've had outreach the staff have received. I'm not sure if this person is someone who has received an automated ticket, but we do expect correspondence requesting that the speed limit be raised on River Tech Court. So should we receive that, we'll forward it to the council.
Thank you very much, Mr. Listician.
And I believe we have a couple other slides here to provide updates in other areas of Walk Bike Drive.
Great.
So Director Lewis, are you covering our signage project?
Yes, I am, on behalf of Public Works. Good evening, Vice Mayor Lingua and council members and members of the community and staff. Public Works is installing no tractor trailer signs in Riverdale Park Station and on routes into the community from Van Buren Bridge. These will be both flashing LED signs and non-LED signs. They are intended to prevent tractor trailers from entering the community where they can't safely navigate their way out of the community. There will also be signs directing traffic, tractor trailers back to Riverdale Road from parking lots along River Tech Court, so they don't continue west towards the bridge, because they won't be able to safely navigate the circle, not to mention if they venture into Riverdale Park Station, certainly getting out safely. The map shows the location of both types of signs, with orange being flashing and the white being non-flashing. Actually, signs 1, 3, and 7 were installed today, and the flashing signs are on order. Any questions?
I have none. Any questions from councils regarding this?
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see you this evening, Ms. Lewis. I'm wondering if there is a process, what the process is for having these redirections or restrictions rather put into GPS databases. My sense is that we could put 400 signs on every corner and there's still going to be folks that aren't paying attention and just follow where the GPS tells them to go. And maybe there's just some percentage of that we have to live with, but I'm wondering if that is something that we as a municipality have the ability to submit to whoever operates and proliferates those databases.
Actually, I don't know the answer to the question, but it's something we could look into. We will have these flashing signs, LED signs, are going to be pretty prominent. In fact, one is proposed for, as you see, number 4, Lafayette Avenue, which if a semi or tractor trailer has gotten to that point, they're directed away from the traffic circle at that point. And that's,
Awesome.
an existing, a permanent flashing sign at that location.
Love to see them there. I think this is going to be a big help. I'm just always thinking about the one person the one special snowflake what works for everybody else, and they still do what they want. And mindlessly following the GPS is a thing that trips some people up, believe it or not. So
no, I believe that's exactly the case. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. Thanks for that information, and would love to hear if we hear anything back on the GPS part of it.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Any other questions from council?
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Inyang.
I appreciate your work on this and the rest of the staff for doing this. You know, this has been one of those unique instances. I think if you've lived in Riverdale Park Station long enough, you've seen just about every type of tractor trailer do something, unexpected here. And I've probably guided a few out myself personally. So I hope that these would limit the amount of tractor trailers who find themselves for whatever reason in the community. Um, I know our neighbors pretty much know now that like we like stop the trailer, ask them if they're using a GPS, and like more often than not, they're using commercial GPS. And the last few have been, for I think extenuating circumstances like the River Roads closure forced the tractor trailer that was making a drop off in the Discovery District to come through, and that was sort of an issue. Um, my question is similar to Councilmember Smith's in the sense that, what do you do in the sense of when an actual trailer somehow misses the signs and finds themselves in the community? Um, I know the mayor's not here, and it's something that, we've had conversations, but I like to say, I think personally, if a tractor trailer finds itself on the bridge heading into the community, that we still need a sign, probably not a flashing one, but something that directs them to 47th Street to go to Woodbury to sort of exit the community. It's my understanding that that road is sort of designed to be able to take a tractor trailer. I've seen tractor trailers make that turn. But in fairness, if you come off the bridge, 47th Street does not look like it's capable of taking a tractor trailer. And I think as a result, they end up just trying to make it around the Village Green because there's no cars as opposed to, cars being on the right side of 47th Street. And so uh, would love to get a sense or maybe, add this to, further discussion with the full council about sort of the pros and cons there. And I can do some work to do some outreach to the community to see if there's interest in sort of having some type of signage that would direct a trailer to 47th Street. Again, this is if somehow, some way they missed, in almost any direction, 3 to 4 signs, there's still the reality of, we can't have tractor trailers cutting across the Village Green like that's happened before, or take light poles that I know it took us almost a year to replace. I don't know if we ordered extra, but we're trying to avoid that as much as possible. So would love to continue this conversation around that in particular.
Staff is waiting for council direction on that. It certainly makes sense to have some type of signage so that if a tractor trailer makes it that far, they know there's a way out, a
Okay.
more direct way out.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, perhaps, and I'm not sure if we'd be able to have the conversation on the 9th, because I believe the mayor will be returning immediately prior to that meeting. But perhaps in September, there could be some offline conversation and come back with a recommendation for the full council at the end of September.
Sure.
If the mayor and the council member from Ward 4 could get together. And then I'd be happy to participate in that discussion. I think Ivy spoke for the staff team. It makes sense to the staff if someone ends up at the foot of the bridge to have a marked way out instead of leaving it to chance. But I think an offline meeting would be appropriate.
Okay, that would be fine. Okay. Any other questions from council on this part of the presentation? Any questions from the public? We got something in, that's the same thing from the chat.
There's a hand raised.
Okay. Let's see who's got their hand up here. Mr. Schmitz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I want to thank Director Lewis and Manager Lestitian, and as well as Councilmember Inyang for the work on this. It's a vexing problem in our neighborhood. But I have thought about the GPS solution, but unfortunately I'm of a generation, I don't have a lot of expertise in this area. So if anybody can refer me to sources or information that might help with a GPS-based solution, I'd very much appreciate it.
Okay. Staff, do you have any response on that?
Well, I intend to look into it, and I can share
Okay.
whatever information I get with Mr. Smith. Mhm.
Thank you, Director Lewis.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from the public? Okay,
You have
Um,
your hand raised, sir.
I'm looking for that hand right now. I am not seeing it.
Identified as Pete, TRP resident.
Okay, Pete. What would you like to ask?
Councilmember Lingua and all. This is not directly related to tractor trailer signage. I'm just curious of the status of pedestrian signs at the, I believe it's Woodbury and Van Buren trolley trail crossings.
I'm sorry, which signs are these you're expecting?
That there would be a pedestrian crossing sign similar to the rest of the corners of Village Green.
Sure.
There's no, if you're traveling east on either of those, or I guess is Woodbury one way? I don't know, but if
It's two-way.
yeah, okay, so yeah,
Yeah.
there's no, to my knowledge, there has never been, and there still is not any. I mean, the new painting on the pavement is awesome. I just think that the neon pedestrian sign would be. I mean, I think it's needed. Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a note of that.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you, Pete. Any other questions? Okay. And by the looks of the presentation, this was the actually we have one more item we're going to talk about. You want to talk about the Town Center Trail and Parking Lot redesign in Natoli Place, Lafayette
Okay.
Avenue redesign.
Yes, I'll do that as well, sir. So we're certainly happy to report that the town has hired a part-time employee who is an engineer with extensive project management experience to manage these projects, the Town Center Trail and Parking Lot redesign, and the Natoli Place Lafayette Avenue redesign. He will start work this week, and the project will formally launch in early September. Staff will present a task order contract from one of the on-call engineers to council for approval in September. We're looking at September 9th. And lastly, staff had a very productive meeting with CSX recently, where CSX agreed to give the town access to railroad property that might be included in a redesign plan through easements. This is major and it avoids the complicated acquisition process, which lately anyway, CSX is not likely to support. And with that, I'll take questions.
Okay, any questions from the council?
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Ms. Lewis. This is I know it's only Monday, but it's definitely the best news I've gotten in a week. Love to in the week. Love to hear CSX is not doing the kind of things that we expected CSX to do, that they're being very amenable to us here and getting this done. I know you've been working hard on it and trying to get it moving and as frustrated with it as I have been. So I just want to thank you for you and your team and the staff for their dedication to seeing us get to this point. And I know we're not ready to break out the shovels yet, but we can see them from here. So that's good to hear.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Any other questions from council? Okay. Any other public questions? questions from the public? Pardon me.
Mr.
Okay.
Chair,
Councilmember Inyang.
there was a question earlier in the chat about what are the best ways for the public to support the Walk Bike Drive Safety Committee initiative outside of, sending emails or directly to the new email address.
Mr. Town Manager, are you taking that one?
If Mr. Chair would like me to, sure.
Mr. Lestitian, go right ahead.
So I think the simple answer is everyone needs to participate in the Walk Bike Drive Safety Initiative. And we do that by modeling good behaviors, by talking with our neighbors and the people we encounter, reporting things, and becoming involved along the way. For example, the safety committee, the advisory committee, held their first meeting. Their meetings are open to the public. Soon their meeting schedule will be published for the upcoming year. And one way residents can become involved is to attend those meetings. And the one thing that was discussed briefly at their first meeting is having a culture of safety. And that's really at the end of the day what we need to achieve. It is to have a culture of safety where it's top of mind for all of us. And so staff have floated ideas in the past about having folks sign pledges that they are on board with this initiative. But I would say in addition to sending in items that folks think are issues that need addressed, participate through those meetings, attend council meetings, voice your concerns, let us know. And yeah, so it's everybody to their own measure, participating as they can, but starting with attending meetings, voicing your concerns, and helping to be part of the solution. If you have recommendations as well, please share those. And then, as I started this, model good behavior.
Yep, it's true. It's true. Thank you very much, Mr. Lestitian.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions from the public and/or the council on the initiative?
We had one other section for this presentation, sir, and that's an update on the Safe Streets for All grant.
Oh, okay.
Good evening.
Right ahead.
Good evening, Vice Mayor Lingua, members of the council, and members of the public. I'm pleased to inform everyone that we have received an assigned agreement from the U.S. Department of Transportation and Federal Highway Administration. And with that, our fiscal year 23 Safe Streets for All funds will be used to develop a new complete streets plan. That's our Walk Bike Drive plan. We'll conduct a few traffic studies, develop a concept development for our quick build projects, associated NEPA requirements, and then we'll install quick build improvements to develop the long-term feasibility of the projects. The next steps are to develop a scope of work, and then we will come back to Mayor and Council with that scope of work and potentially an agreement. Any questions?
Council, any questions for Ms. Peaks regarding this? Any? Okay, seeing no hands going up. Any questions from the public for Ms. Peaks regarding this? Okay, seeing any hands going up. Ms. Peaks, thank you very much. Mr. Lustitian?
Chair? Yes, sir. You have one item in the chat, I believe.
Okay, it just popped up. What are the quick build improvements?
Director Lewis or Laverne, if one of you could speak to what type of improvements would be in the quick build.
Yes, so quick build improvements will be temporary installations that will be tested to determine if they're feasible for long term. And so if they are feasible, we'll have those projects on the list to eventually apply for a construction grant to install those. So we'll have 23 quick build projects that are in areas most needed for some sort of installation or redesign potentially.
And if I may, just to add a few, it might include extending curbs, installing temporary, excuse me, I got a call coming in, installing temporary raised crosswalks, raised intersections. We may use flex posts to redesign roadway widths. So the slate is really open in terms of what we can identify that may make a difference in pedestrian and bicycle safety, especially along our high injury networks, which are also our state roads, but other areas in town that would benefit from some of these temporary measures. And we get a chance to assess their impact.
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Inyang.
I think first, I think this is obviously, it's great to get the funding and sort of working our way through this process. I know it's a once in a lifetime opportunity in terms of like support to do this. And so I look forward to getting the data to support longer term plans that address safety across the entire town, especially in sort of represented parts and underinvested parts of the town, including in parts of Ward 4. But I think it'd be, I know there was an earlier question on like, what are ways that people can sort of like help out? I know there are a lot of ideas around sort of quick build improvements. I think everything from like, the ability to, discourage parking that sort of crowds intersections, whether that's like planters being or something like that. So I'd also be curious in terms of what flexibility we have along some of the state roads, state highways, Kenilworth Avenue and East West Highway, in terms of like opportunities there, especially, very mindful of access to Purple Line stations and the kind of current predicament that you kind of need to drive to the Purple Line stations in order to use them safely. And so if there are opportunities to test out stuff and sort of evaluate the long-term feasibility of it would be great to hear.
I could not agree more. Any other questions or comments from the council or the public regarding this portion of the presentation?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Mr. Lustitian.
So this will conclude this presentation for this evening. But I think it's important to recognize that while we're making progress here, we have to do more. And there's lots of CIP projects that are planned, and we heard from Director Lewis getting underway. But I think it's important to note that we still have accidents happening, and this is the first meeting since we had the fatal bicyclist accident. I believe the accident was on August 14th. And the young man, a 19-year-old, succumbed to his injuries on the 21st. And so we have to continue to do what we can to make things as safe as possible. In that case, the county's collision analysis and reconstruction team is investigating that, and we'll learn from them in a number of months what their conclusions are on that accident.
Thank you very much, Mr. Listician. I agree. There's more that can be done. I think it's finding a way, best way forward in identifying and meeting those objectives.
Thank you for the opportunity for us to share on this topic tonight, sir.
And thank you for this presentation. I'll give one last go for any folks looking to ask any questions about this presentation. Okay, seeing none. Mr. Listician, Ms. Barnes, Director Barnes, pardon me, Director Lewis, Chief Turner, thank you very much. Ms. Peaks as well. Thank you very much for this presentation. Okay, next up on our agenda, we have the mayor's report. As I mentioned earlier to Chief Turner, I wouldn't be making a mayor's report because I'm not the mayor. Yet I feel, after what I saw this afternoon compared to what I saw this morning, to bring up briefly and make folks aware the efforts the county is making to afford crossing guards at Riverdale Road and Taylor, Riverdale Road and Queensbury, as well as a crossing guard at the intersection at East-West Highway. There was much fanfare this morning with many folks from many upper staff from Prince George's County there present at Riverdale Road and Taylor. I saw CTV was out there as well. The lady who was there directing traffic at that intersection was a very nice lady and seemed to be doing the job very well. There was another gentleman at Queensbury and Taylor, as well as there was another gentleman at 410 at that 410 intersection of Taylor Road. Come this afternoon, it was a very different story. With school getting out at 2:30. I walk up there at around 2:35 and there's no crossing guard in the intersection. I saw then a few minutes later, officer coming down and took control of the situation until members from the county crossing guards did show up. There was a crossing guard at the again, there was also a crossing guard that did show up around 2:40 at Queensbury and Taylor, which up until that time was being handled by staff here. We had come to find out that the direction for the crossing guards was that they were to be in this area between 2:40 and 3 o'clock, which left myself as well as the other officers there a bit puzzled as to why that would be, being that school is getting out at 2:30. All that said, it seems to me that there are a number of conversations ahead with Prince George's County Police Department, B, the Prince George's County Public School System, and those representatives, and C, also bringing this to the attention of Councilmember Eric Olson at the county level. And with that, I will conclude the report. Mr. Listician.
Yes, I will be relatively brief this evening, sir. So to piggyback on what you shared, just a reminder for the community that the school is in session, and to please be safe traveling through our neighborhoods. Town Hall and DPW operations will be closed on Monday, September 2nd, in observance of Labor Day. There will be no trash, yard waste, or recycling collection on Labor Day. The town's Board of Elections will meet on September 4th at 6:30 p.m. That's a virtual meeting. Information about that meeting is available on the town's website. The reminder to the council that the mayor and council legislative meeting will be held on Monday, September 9th. And there's a presentation at that meeting, a very substantial presentation on the Town Seal Redesign Committee, or from the Town Seal Redesign Committee. So the committee will be there along with the artist, and they'll present the proposed redesign of the Town Seal. And the next Walk and Talk, community walk and talk, is Saturday, September 14th at 9:30 in the morning. And we will be publishing the location to meet. Hopefully we'll get that location out by the end of this week. And that's all I have tonight, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lustician. Any questions for Mr. Lustician on any of these items? Okay, seeing none. Next on the agenda is Council, Committee, and Ward reports. Council Member Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good to see everybody again after mostly a break. We had a special session in there, but yeah, good to see everybody. I spent this past week in one of my favorite non-Riverdale Park places in America, which is Asheville, North Carolina. If you've never been, it is just a fabulous place, beautiful weather, beautiful scenery, beautiful people doing beautiful things up there. And I've always sort of thought aspirationally about Riverdale Park as potentially, sort of a day trip Asheville place for folks that live in the DMV, or folks from down, Prince William County or Howard County or whatnot could come downtown and have some manifest spread, do some shopping, buy some wine, have some 250 barbecue, spend their money here, and head back to wherever they're from. And it's always good to go out there and get some good ideas. Talk to the Director of Agriculture for the Biltmore Estate. For those not familiar, I won't give the full story, but Biltmore Estate was the largest private residence in America. It's basically a castle built by the Vanderbilt family on 100,000 acres in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And they sort of invented the science of forestry there, which is pretty cool. And they were talking about the different practices that they have there, that they've been doing for a long time, and that they advocate others to do as well. A lot of it was good to hear some of the same stuff we're doing here, just in terms of letting the forests be, let them regenerate and do what they do. I do have that person's information if staff would like to reach out. They say they always love talking to towns to share information. I'm not sure. It's, of course, very different purposes that folks are working with, but if anybody's interested, I'm happy to share that. Yeah, so that was a good time, a good trip, and good to see what other towns are doing. And then, as mentioned, Monday is Labor Day, which is a day that folks here know is close to my heart. I encourage people to enjoy their day off, take some time and think about what Labor Day actually means. That a lot of things we take for granted, like a normal work day, a non-16-hour-long work day, a non-7-day work week, child labor protections, child safety, minimum wage. These were not things that were given, and they also weren't things that came easy. People literally died fighting for those things because greedy bosses didn't want us to have them. So I'm always happy to talk about some labor history. for anybody who wants their ear bent off. I promise I'll tell you more than you want to know. But it's really important. I don't think we realize just how much we get from the labor movement, and the fact that the story of America is essentially the story of wealthy, powerful interests trying to exploit workers, often succeeding, and workers fighting back. And there's one institution in America that has always stood by workers in that fight, and that's the American Labor Union. So everyone, again, encourage you to reflect on that as we go into the holiday weekend this coming weekend. And that is all for me this evening, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Smith. I couldn't agree more. Next up, Councilmember Foe.
Councilmember Smith just getting me excited to teach industrialization this year. Absolutely right. Councilmember Smith, growing up in the general Pittsburgh area, you are never far away from a union member. And it's been a remarkable part of our story is the fight for labor that occurred in that city. My dad participated in the longest teacher strike in Pennsylvania history. My sister also participated in a labor stoppage to advocate on behalf of better wages for educators and staff in schools. I've been a teacher 21 years in Fairfax County, and I've had pay stoppages 12 times. So I've learned to respect the work that teachers unions have done in Pennsylvania and wish that we had more utilization. I know that's changing in Virginia, but I loved to hear your comments there. Briefly, I had the opportunity, I was invited by Maya Davis to go to Riverdale. Sorry, I'm looking for my phone froze. And I was looking for the title of a book that I actually found out was being written about Reconstruction stories that have occurred around Washington, D.C. One of the 8 stories that is going to be published in this national park story or supported book is going to include details of the Plummer family. Another light will be shined on our community by the National Park System. And that just gets my blood flowing towards the work that we have to accomplish in our municipality towards honoring those enslaved. I have a dream of 15 years in the future, corresponding or collaborating with Edmundston and trying to get Mount Rose honored as a National Historic Site. We have an absolutely incredible story that every day we're pulling out more information about. I was speaking at this thing in front of members of Ford's Theater, and they talked about a story that has just been revealed about Emily Plummer. Emily Plummer had been arrested in Baltimore on suspicion of trying to escape slavery. And the word that we have received, or what the historians have been able to identify, is that her master, her owner, her enslaver, was actually refused to pick her up because she was so difficult to manage. I absolutely love that this woman was that fierce in defense of her and her family's freedom. It just adds additional tales to this remarkable family and those enslaved that we are choosing to honor in Riverdale Park. Just get excited about the topic. I hope everybody's doing well. And with that, I'll yield my time.
Thank you very much, Councilman Foe. I couldn't agree more. Okay, that would bring me, myself, and I up for the Ward 3 report, which I will hold until September 9th. Which brings us to Ward 4, Councilmember Inye.
Good evening. I'll be brief. Excited for the presentations that have happened earlier today. They touched on a lot of things that I wanted to talk on, so I won't repeat it again. The other thing of note is been planning for the last probably month or so trying to do the first ever sort of Riverdale Park Station block party. And I think originally was planning for the end of September, but actually we'll be aiming for the end of October, so October 26th from 12 to 5, which is a Saturday. And so, you know, in partnership with the, you know, K-Fritz, company, and well as some local businesses. And so we're doing the outreach now to sort of secure the amount of interested parties while working through the permitting process. And so I appreciate the feedback that, you know, Chief Turner, you gave on like the traffic plan. And so we'll follow up with some more information in terms of like if there's anything else needed to make it a reality, and what, if anything, is needed from a police support standpoint for some of the traffic and traffic signs. And so, you know, all this, I'll be reaching out via email, but since I'm here, you know, just appreciate the support there, and we'll be but excited about hopefully creating something that can become an institution. I know further on our agenda, we're going to be talking about a road closure. And so that's something that will be coming up, and I look forward to bringing a similar proposal to closing down Van Buren Street in one of the next meetings or so. So super excited about that. I got a poster out, you know, I'll send it out whenever whenever we're ready and it's more finalized, but that's it for that. And then I'll yield the rest of my time.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Inyang. I think late October sounds like a great time to have a block party. Could almost double as a Halloween party too. Okay, next up, Councilmember Fallon. Councilmember?
Is it Calon or Fallon?
Pardon me, Calon.
Aha, now I come to the right. Okay, Mr. Chair, how are you?
My apologies.
I say thanks to all of you. Well, what I experienced this past week, I went to Riverdale Plaza. The dollar store over there, I went to buy something. The man who owned the dollar store explained to me that all the time people are coming there to steal. When they call the police are not responding. So that has been happened many, many times. And they cannot be able to challenge these people. And I gave the man rest assured that on this meeting today, I'll bring it to the floor so that the chief can take note of that. After that, as we were talking about road safety, walk and drive and everything, I'll be advocating to the town manager and the mayor for this 54th Avenue to have a speed bump here. We need only 3 speed bumps. If that happens, it's going to be nice because a lot of accident is happening here. The people, they speed like they are on the highway. So I've been complaining about this for many, many times. And moreover, the 54th and Spring Lane, that corner, we need a two street light over there. It's something I've been advocating for to the mayor and the town manager. You all know, but still no response. So please, I want them to do something about this, the speed bump and that street lights. Because the people in that corner, they are in the dark. So for that matter, I stop there now for now. Thank you, sir. Hello, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Calhoun. Are you talking about that corner of 54th where it merges into Spring Lane? When it comes around that corner?
Yeah, that place it needs two street lights.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And the speed bump from the church to Jefferson.
Okay. So
I
I
need
thought
two-
I heard you say 3 speed humps.
Yes, 3. Yeah.
Okay. Perhaps you're thinking of putting one also as well on Spring Lane. You would like consider one being put on Spring Lane as well?
No. Spring Lane don't need. They have speed bump over there.
Okay.
The only thing they need is street lights, 2 street lights in
Okay.
that curve. Yeah.
So no need. You're not advocating for an additional speed bump on Spring Lane as well.
No, I think they have 2. They have 2
Okay.
over there. Just
But you're-
54th Avenue.
Okay, but you're advocating for 3 to be put in on 54th Avenue.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'll make note of that. I'll be sure to pass it on to Mayor Thompson.
Mr. Chair.
And perhaps, yes, Mr. Listichian.
Yes, if I may respond to the council member's concern. So yes, council member Cologne has referenced this in the past. And my response tonight is consistent with my previous response. So Director Lewis is putting together a list of projects, of road projects, and will be coming to the council with that list. That list will include adding the speed humps or bumps. We're not sure what the engineers are going to recommend, but staff are going to recommend what the engineers tell us. But there will be modifications made to 54th, either speed humps or bumps or platforms, speed tables added along 54th. We concur with the council member from the staff perspective that it's a concern. And then Director Lewis separately has been working with Pepco on having Pepco lights added to Spring Lane. And so as soon as we have an update from Pepco, we can update the council via email or at the September 9th meeting.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Calhoun. Okay, that concludes our ward reports. First item we have on our agenda is item number 1. The street closure request for the 6200 block of 43rd Street on September 21st, 2024. From 2 p.m. to 8 p.m. for the annual block party. Mr. Listichian.
And I'll defer to Director Barnes, who's handling this for the town. Director Barnes.
Good evening again, everyone. This is an annual request that the town receives for the closure of the 6200 block of 43rd. This year, it again came from the city of Hyattsville. The city has already approved the street closure on their end, and they're asking for the town to provide feedback on the closure on the side that is the town's. So this is again an annual event. They are required, the city of Hyattsville requires a certain number of signatures. They've met all of the thresholds for the city of Hyattsville. It appears that they're all moving forward. We just need to say whether or not we approve the portion of the roadway that the closure of that section.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Barnes. And you are seeking input on this from the mayor and council. That is correct?
Yes, sir.
Well, I am going to defer to my colleague from the first ward, Councilmember Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think this is a great event. Happy to support us similarly closing down our side of the street. Save one question. I assume the answer is no, but in the years that they've been doing this, have we ever received any objections from residents on the Riverdale Park side?
Not that I'm aware of, Councilman Smith. This has been going on for many, many years, probably long before I arrived to the town. And I checked with the chief also. We don't, they're aware obviously of the event and they monitor it. But we've not received any complaints that I'm aware of.
Figured that was the case. Just wanted to exercise due diligence there. So thank you for that.
Certainly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. So, any other comments from the council on this?
Mr. Chair,
Councilmember Foe.
can we vote on this evening or add it to the consent agenda?
You're reading my mind on the consent agenda there. I was
Okay.
just gonna bring that up. I was gonna let everyone just have their say first. If
I would
everyone is,
support that.
no one has any objection to this being on the consent agenda,
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Inyang.
Obviously, I'm all for block parties, so I'm definitely in favor of this. I'm curious about like Hyattsville's requirement for signatures. Does the town of Riverdale have any such requirement for signatures in order to have a road closure?
We typically do not require a number of signatures for a road closure. There is a provision, I believe, in the code, and I just can't recall what section. When we held carnivals, I believe we did have to get signatures for folks who were participating or requesting the mayor and council's permission for a carnival. So I'd have to double check that, but that's not a typical provision that we have for a street closure.
I'm actually now very curious of the answer to that. What is a carnival? And why is that? I know the code has some pretty interesting things that were clearly written for something that happened. So not surprised that carnivals are called out, but I think it would be good to know. Obviously, as we have more higher dense populations, it's a lot harder to get 50% of signatures from, like in the apartment building, as opposed to, 17 houses on one street. So, it'd be good to know sort of like what is officially done versus unofficially, and if there's a larger conversation around how we might want to handle that if we find ourselves in something that of a conflict of current standards. Thank you.
Okay, we're starting to lose your volume there at the end, Councilmember Inyang, but we were able to hear what you were asking. Regarding carnivals, there was a time when carnival companies would come through and bring a formal request to the town with signatures from nearby residents as to not objecting to a carnival, and they would usually be setting up for about 6 to 8 days. And it was normally over in the area down by Kenilworth Avenue in that open space, or else in another parking lot elsewhere in town. I remember in the past for block parties, it was normally someone from a couple folks from the block would come before the council, letting the council know that they'd like to hold one. And making a request that way. I am kind of curious to wonder if anyone from that side of 43rd Street, 6200 block has come forward. I know the Hyattsville, this Hyattsville event is kind of a unique thing, being that it's between two towns, or two municipalities. Councilmember Smith, could I ask of you to reach out to the residents there and see if someone could come before the council and make a request?
Certainly, yeah. I will reach out to the folks over there.
Okay. I think, at which point then this is probably going to have to go back on a regular agenda. But it seems like a fairly quick item to take care of once it's brought up, and then folks from there make a request to the council. Any other questions from council or the public regarding this discussion item? Okay, seeing none. Look to see some folks on the 9th. Thank you very much for doing that, Councilmember Smith. Okay, next up on the agenda, we have the sale of town property located at Lafayette Avenue and Nicholson Street. Mr. Listician.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Director Shelton is going to provide a high-level overview for the council tonight. We recognize this is the first time that you've received information on this. Director Shelton.
Thank you, Town Manager. Yes, good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. The town owns a 684 square foot parcel located at the corner of Lafayette Avenue and Nicholson Street. This is on the southwestern corner of Lot 16 and Block 57. The property was transferred to the town on December of 1951 under a fee simple arrangement, meaning no deed restrictions or anything like we had when we were working on the tot lot, for example. A plat of the area is shown in the second attachment here. So it's kind of a sliver on the southwest portion of Lot 16 here. That's 684 feet, which for anybody else who had trouble picturing 684 feet, it's about the size of 2 parking spaces. So the town recently has received a disproportionate amount of complaints about maintenance and concerns about the condition of the property. And staff have contacted the property owner that owns the remainder of Lot 16. And they have expressed an interest in just acquiring the property themselves and maintaining it themselves, relieving us of that burden. Staff are suggesting that we sell the parcel to this owner that owns the rest of the lot at the assessed value, which is $100, along with half the cost of the closing cost, which we are still working towards with our town attorney. If the mayor and council do decide to proceed with the sale, staff will continue to collaborate with the town attorney to draft a contract of sale, prepare an ordinance to authorize the transaction, and declare that the land is not required for public use, advertise the sale for a period of 20 days, and lastly, arrange the closing process. If there are any questions about the sale of this property, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Shelton. One question I have is along that sidewalk there is a small retaining wall. And the way that this is drawn up, that looks like that's going to be what's going to be part of in that area of the sale. There's a significant portion there. Does the retaining wall transfer to the owner, or is that still the town's property?
My belief is that we'd probably have to go back to a survey and just double check where our property edge is, but I would defer to the town manager on that one.
Yeah, the only thing I could add to that, I agree with Director Shelton, in that we would have where our right of way is identified. But I do believe that a portion of that is going to become the property owners. You're referring to the high curb. It's a poured concrete curb there you're referring to, correct? On the inside of the sidewalk.
Yes.
Yes, I believe that will become the property owners.
See, that's where I might have a little heartburn about this, because that's it. To me, that seems to be a part of the sidewalk structure.
If it's a monolithic pour, then I would think that it would be an issue we'd have to address. If it's not a monolithic pour, then not necessarily. But I'll go back to Director Shelton saying that we're going to have to look into that to give you a more complete answer.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, I think that's important. Detail to get ironed out. I know that. Any estimate on what the closing costs are going to be?
I believe that the town attorney said that they would be something in the low thousands, so like 1 or 2,000, maybe is yeah, I think he said maybe as high as 3,000, but I think that would be very unlikely. So in the low thousands.
Okay. And the property owner adjacent to this public land is open to this sale occurring?
That's correct. Staff have reached out to the property owner, and she has expressed an interest in acquiring the property.
Okay. Okay. Any questions from the council regarding this sale?
Mr. Chair.
Council members.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering if we could hear some of the details about what those maintenance obligations and issues have been as of late.
I believe that the Department of Public Works was mainly responding to those, so I would defer to either the town manager or Director Lewis.
I could tell you, I could chime in and talk about what Public Works has done over the last couple of years. We wouldn't maintain that property on a regular basis for a long time. And so I reached out to my counterpart in Hyattsville because she has a interest in sort of conservation areas. And so I got her input and then worked with the Neighborhood Design Center to come up with a planting plan using native plants that would stabilize the topsoil. And so we did that. We followed the planting plan that we were given by Neighborhood Design Center. And it was a lot to keep up with so many plants planted at one point in time. So when other demands increased, the amount of time we had to spend on that, on maintenance at that location dropped. And so I think, and the property owner had actually made an overture to assist us in maintaining the property. I guess ultimately we decided it made sense that if the property owner was interested, that the property should be conveyed to her. She's done some amazing work on her own property and might be able to do a better job than the staff was able to do as frequently as is needed at that site under her ownership.
Gotcha. So the issue wasn't so much like the dollar cost of the maintenance so much as the staff time.
The staff time. It was,
Yeah.
yes, very high maintenance for what we were advised to plant. And it was during the early stages of those plants where you have to spend a lot more time cultivating it and make sure that we're weeding it, we're, putting down erosion protection fabric, and it was just a lot.
Sure. All right, thank you. I'd gotten that that question from a resident earlier today who had seen who had taken a look at the agenda. So I just want to make sure I could give them a good answer. So thank you for that.
Welcome.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Smith. Any other questions from council regarding this sale of public land? Not seeing any hands. Any questions from the public regarding this public sale of land? Again, I'm not seeing any other hands, and not seeing anything in the chat. So essentially, from here, where do we go?
Staff will continue working with the town attorney to draft a contract of sale and prepare an ordinance to authorize the transaction and declare that the land is not required for public use.
Okay, and we'll figure out what's going to happen with that retaining portion along the sidewalk.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, great. So this will be coming back for another discussion, say, next work session?
I believe that's absolutely feasible, yes.
Okay, look forward to seeing it then. Mr. Charlton, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next on the agenda, we have an update on the demolition of 5005 and 5002 Queensberry Road. Phase 1 of building demolition and parking lot redevelopment. Project CIP 20DS06. Is that 5005 or is that 5,000?
It's 5,000, sir.
Okay. Minor typo. Mr. Lustician.
Yes, and thank you very much. So we have Mr. Newmont Hayter, our special projects coordinator, with us here this evening to walk you through this update. This has been a long time coming, and but we have some exciting news where we're going to see some activity there to move this project forward. So Newmont, if you want to lead the council through this discussion.
Good evening, council members and members of the public. I would like to provide an update on the project, where we are aiming to remove two residential structures at 5,000 and 5,002 Queensberry Road, and also development of parking lot. This is a phase 1. Just to provide a background, an invitation to bid was issued by the town on October 31st, 2023. Attracting bids ranging from $36,900 to $144,000. Cypress Services LLC was selected on November 28, 2023 for the demolition piece of this project with a bid of $68,450 selected for their competitive pricing and relevant experience. The town council approved a contract with a ceiling of $78,718, which included a 15% contingency. The project required 8 months of coordination with the utility companies before a demolition permit could be issued. The permit finally was approved this August following the submission of sediment control plan to the Soil Conservation Department. The demolition is scheduled for the week of September 23rd, 2024. Primarily on Saturday to minimize work on school days. Additionally, community forklift will be invited back to salvage any reusable items prior to the demolition. Just to provide an update on the budget, the entire project's budget is $535,000, $925. That will be all. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Mr. Hayter. One observation I have is just that it's a shame that we couldn't get a permit issued earlier from DPI so that some of this work could have occurred during the summer. But be that as it may, the work will be done on Saturdays. I hope it goes well, and I hope it goes smoothly, and I hope it's done safely. Any questions from the council regarding this update on the demolition? Okay, seeing no hands. Any questions from the public regarding this update on this demolition project?
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Inyang.
Just for my own clarification, the parking lot, I guess the use of the parking lot would be for public use, or would it be for, like, town staff, or I can't remember like who would be using the parking lot. I know like the parking in that area is pretty tight, and so is it just like a final relief, or are basically all the parking spaces accounted for?
So, Mr. Chair, I'd like you to respond to that.
Mr. Lustician, go ahead, please.
Yes, so conceptually and in prior conversations with the council, with staff envision that, one, there's going to be handicap accessible spaces that are required. We also envisioned, with the council's approval, that we would have several spaces that would have charging stations. So when it will be open to the public for use when the public has business at the municipal center. As well as we've had discussions about whether the Riverdale Elementary School would have interest in having X number of spaces to assist with their parking constraints and to help make things safer. Right now, if you go there when school is being dismissed, as Councilmember Lingua was earlier today, it gets really tight on Queensberry. And so having some of the teacher parking that's currently in front of the elementary school, being able to utilize this parking spot has been in previous discussions with the mayor and council. But we would be coming back to the council once we're closer to the final design. The number of spaces is still in flux. We were at about 43 parking spaces. Director Lewis, correct me if I got that number right. At one point, I think we were as high as 47 spaces, but the county's put some restrictions on us in terms of setback from Taylor Road, which makes the actual parking area smaller. So I believe we're down to 43, and final design should be somewhere no less than 40, I would hope. But once we have a final plan, we'll come back and the council ultimately decide with the use of the parking lot is.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Listician. Any other questions?
Yes.
Councilmember Calhoun.
Yeah. Yeah, I want to ask the town manager if the parking is free or is it paid parking?
The staff have not had that discussion with the council, and ultimately that would be a council decision. And we would look forward to having that same conversation once we have the final design.
Okay, what about the council members? Do they have to park there or not?
That's again a decision for the council. Whether the council would have reserved spaces among those 40 spaces or not. That would be a council decision.
Then you mentioned about the schools and the teachers.
Yes, sir.
So is it the free parking for the school or the teachers are going to pay?
Sir, that again would be a part of the discussion once we have a final number of parking spaces. So when we have the final design in the coming months, we'll have that on the agenda, as well as the town's going to need to have a conversation with the public school system and have them weigh in, and then we can go from there. But ultimately, it's a council decision.
Okay, well, we'll see. Thank you.
Thank you very much, council member. Any other questions from the council or the public regarding this demolition project?
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Foe.
Good evening. I just love to hear the dialogue about the potential use of electric charging there. I haven't seen this in municipalities significantly, but I think it would gel quite nicely with our mission and vision statements towards sustainability if we could consider offering free charging to residents with electric vehicles. Just a thought. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Foe. Any other questions or questions or comments from the council and or public regarding this demolition?
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Smith.
Yeah, I remember back when we first started discussing this, if my memory serves me correctly, one of the reasons that a parking lot was suggested for this property was that that would be the easiest thing to turn into something else down the line. I know we had good discussions with Councilmember Inyang's predecessor in Ward 4 about that, you know, housing was the best use of any available property in our community. That wasn't something that was possible at that time or in terms of development. So we talked about this being a parking lot with an eye towards putting something else on it later. Is that something that's still under consideration, or is the idea that this would just be a parking lot in perpetuity?
As far as I recall, I mean, I think part of it is it's, you know, that's still in play. The fact that, you know, it would be then be able to have a future use. It's just that the next use that would be able to be of a benefit to the community right now would to be afford additional parking in that area in ways to help the school and also in ways to help staff move vehicles in and out of the area by having fewer cars in that area on the street. Is that your recollection, Mr. Listician?
Yes, sir. And I would simply add that the council discussion on it being a temporary use was buy-in between the council. That was not a staff recommendation that the parking lot be a temporary use. But certainly I would concur that having non-vertical construction is easier to change than having a building there. And that principle remains. So if the council decides at a future date to put that property back in private hands or potentially the school system's hands for some sort of construction, then certainly a future council can so direct that. There will be a lot in play in the coming years as it relates to the town's municipal center, whether or not the town acquires the building at 6601. All those things would come into play for future councils to consider. But the principle that you state tonight, sir, is I would agree with 100% that having a parking lot is a lot easier to change the use than if there were vertical construction there.
Thank you, Mr. Town Manager. I just, you know, I'm not asking for any action or anything. I just hope that we can continue to consider, like, keep that in mind as a possibility. We know, right, that like a parking lot is about the worst use for land imaginable because it's used to either store something that isn't being used or it's empty. A less efficient use would be just to do nothing with it, and there is a safety concern there that this would work towards in terms of providing more parking spaces for teachers, for folks visiting the municipal center, for our own town vehicles that we don't have enough space to park. But I think in light of our vision commitment statements and the things we've heard from this council and recommendations for staff on other issues, that building additional parking spaces is the wrong way to go broadly. Again, we have this piece of property. There's not anything else that we're doing with it right now. There is a safety need for additional parking there right now. I just hope we continue this conversation, that it doesn't become that this is just a parking lot now, and 50 years from now that it's still a parking lot on that spot. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Smith. Just to add to that, again, as the town manager said, you know, this, you know, use of those lots can be determined by future councils. This whole opportunity to purchase this came up, gosh, pre-pandemic. And it was an opportunity to acquire additional public space for public use. And it also came up prior before there was any indication of when the Armory, the Civil Affairs Battalion building, the Army Reserve building, was going to be put up. So being that that's now in play, and we're looking at that with a greater interest. Long term, as we transition, should we our efforts prove fruitful and that we're able to move towards relocating municipal operations to that building and providing benefits to the community in that development, then it will come back to the council to decide what it would like to do with the buildings that are there now, along with that lot. And there are a number of possibilities. So, but that's farther out, and probably any of us will be around to make a determination on. Any other questions or comments regarding this demolition project? Okay, seeing none. Let's move on to our next item, which is the Defined Benefit Plan Board of Trustees appointment. I believe that would be Mr. Smith who will be bringing us up to date on that. Is that correct?
Actually, I believe I've been asked to pinch hit for this one.
Okay.
I, like Mr. Jones, am a member of the Board of Trustees for the Defined Benefit Plan. Mr. Jones is our chair of that committee, and Councilmember Lingua also serves as a member of the Board of Trustees for the plan. With the promotion of Chief Turner, the chief is no longer eligible to serve on the Board of Trustees. So the Board of Trustees is comprised of two permanent members, a member of the council and whoever sits in the chair of the town manager position, and as well as a non-plan participant who has experience in finances. So Mr. Jones fits that role. And then two other participant positions, plan participants who are vested below a position of a department head. So we have Tracy Perrin, who serves in that role from the police department. At a recent Board of Trustees meeting, the members in attendance discussed a replacement. We have a plan participant who's vested, and that's Mr. Keith Robinson. Keith has been with the town since 2019. And in addition to being interested in this as a plan participant, Mr. Robinson works closely with our finance team and has a master's degree in finance. And the Board of Trustees recommend that that the council appoint Mr. Robinson at the meeting on September 9th to the Board of Trustees for the Defined Benefit Plan. And with that, I'd take any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lustician. Any questions from the council regarding this brief? Any questions from the public regarding this brief? Okay. To me, it makes sense to bring forward Mr. Robinson's name to fill this vacancy for the town to vote on. It seems to me that He has qualifications to do so. Now being almost a 5-year employee, looks like there's a commitment for longer service to the town. I have no worries about this being on the agenda for next week.
Thank you very much.
Is that the consensus of the council?
Mr. Chair.
Councilmember Foe.
My only interactions with Mr. Robinson have all been tremendously positive over his time of employment in Fairfax County. I assume that with this recommendation that he is highly qualified and ready to fill the role.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Any other comments regarding this appointment? Okay, seeing no hands. Mr. Lysyshyn, look forward to seeing this on the September 9th agenda.
Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, next up on the agenda is the Town of Riverdale Park Adopt a Road program.
And Mr. Chair, I would defer to Director Barnes to lead us through this discussion item.
Director Barnes, the stage is yours.
Thank you. Good evening again, members of the council and the community. No action is requested tonight. Staff are seeking feedback on the from the mayor and council and community on the creation of an Adopt a Road, Adopt a Block program. Staff recently received an inquiry from the College Park Academy regarding adopting Rivertech Court as part of their CPA Plus program that involves life skills. Staff thought this was a great idea, so we did some research on other programs, for example, the state, county programs, and we designed a framework for a program that we may be able to have here in Riverdale Park. There are a lot of positives to an Adopt a Road, Adopt a Block program. Most importantly, it fosters that community spirit that we all so embrace. It improves the appearance of the town, and it also supports our sustainability efforts. Generally, the program would be relatively simple to set up. It would have a staff program coordinator who would work with the volunteers, coordinate the activity reports and waivers and things like that, the administrative support that'll be needed. Staff would also work to identify eligible roads or areas in towns that would be ripe for this type of program. Right now, again, we already have a request for Rivertech Court, so we'd have to see how that would fit in with what the school is looking to do. We would recruit volunteers from our target groups, which are our community stakeholders, so our local businesses, civic organizations, schools, homeowners associations, and even individual residents. We would promote the program through the town's communication platforms, as well as at community events when we typically promote town programs. So part of the adoption program, our process that staff envisioned included an application, so a very brief application for the entity to adopt the road or block. We would have some sort of an agreement that really outlines responsibilities, safety guidelines, and reporting requirements. And the reporting requirements are really important because we want that data to share with our sustainability team and have it as part of our annual report, our renewal process for Sustainable Maryland. We also would have to take into consideration liability, and typically volunteers sign a standard release form that the town uses for events and things of that nature. And that form could be modified just to cover these activities. So we would provide some safety training, just some best practices. We'd also provide some safety tools, or I'm sorry, tools for like safety vest, gloves, and pickers and things of that nature. That's where there may be a budget impact, would be setting these types of things up. We have some of those things on hand now, but we'd likely need to purchase more depending on how popular the program was. Again, I'm sorry, I missed the materials provided. So the town will provide the trash bags, the recycling bags, and gloves and things like that. We would want to recognize our volunteers through the town's communication platforms. I know at times in the past when we've been in person, we've also recognized volunteers at mayor and council meetings and things of that nature. The maintenance and monitoring, again, would be an important component. So we'd want to see regular cleanups. So we'd have to determine how many we'd like to see in the course of a year. And then staff would continue to monitor the roadway and community space to make sure there weren't any issues and to collect the reviews and the activity reports. So there's a role for staff to be working with the volunteers again. And lastly, the reporting and feedback. So we'd want activity reports so we can collect that data after each cleanup. And then we want feedback, of course, from our volunteers. And that would happen through the TRP program coordinator. So we're really fostering that sense of community spirit, open those lines of communication, and bringing in other stakeholders to be part of town activities. And with that, staff would request any feedback that the mayor, council, and community may have.
Thank you very much, Director Barnes. And what it appears, what I'm seeing here is something that's got a lot of bases covered here already. My main concern was make sure that was made very clear and it's defined the authority, responsibility, and liability portion of this. Who's and how that works between the town and the group of volunteers for that specific area. Especially like the part on the recognition and the maintenance and the monitoring, as well as the reporting back and the feedback, in the sense setting up a good dialogue between the town and the volunteer group. So kudos for a very well thought out idea.
Thank you.
Any questions or public comments regarding this proposed idea for an Adopt a Road program in town?
Sure.
Councilmember Inyang.
Is the program limited to just cleaning like the block or area? Like has town staff considered where the line is in terms of beautification, if people want to plant stuff or paint stuff or murals or anything like that? It might be helpful to just outline where the boundaries are, because if they think they adopt the road, then they own the road, but that's not necessarily the case.
Director Barnes.
Agreed. I think we were envisioning more planting flowers, things of that nature. But again, it would have to be a collaborative effort. There would be a budget impact. And I think that we would have to really be sure of what they were looking for. We have a public art program, so I'm not certain that we would be open to doing murals and things like that. That's already an established program. So more or less just thinking of different things that would include perhaps raking leaves. So that's not necessarily a cleanup, but that might be something that would be beneficial for some of our community spaces, and perhaps planting flowers and things like that. But it would have to be, that component of it would really have to be a collaborative thing. So for right now, we do have College Park Academy that's interested. And if we were able to establish the program, I think that would be a good way to learn about what maybe our stakeholders would like to see as it relates to the beautification component. But I agree that there needs to be some maybe some framework around that specifically.
Okay, thank you, Director Barnes. Any other questions or comments from the council and or the public regarding this Adopt a Road program? Okay, seeing none. Director Barnes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, next up on the agenda is, as always, well, it might be last, it is not least, the minutes that are in our packets for us to review. As the mayor will be saying at this point, please do go over them, check for anything that you find that may not be accurate, please convey that to staff so they could make any changes needed. Moving on now, unfinished business. Is there anything anyone would like to bring up under unfinished business? Okay, are there any items of new business that members would like to bring up at this time? Not hearing any? Which brings us to the end of the meeting and adjournment at 9:32. Everybody, thank you very much for your time here tonight. It's appreciated.
Thank you very much.
And we look forward to seeing you all on the 9th of September.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Thank you all very much. Have a good
Okay.
evening.